some of the emails I get from people are amazing, that they, contracted some horrible disease, or they were going through a divorce, or considering suicide, and they were listening to the music and it helped them get through it, and now they're through the other side and the sun is shining again. It would bring tears to your eyes. It's amazing. And that's the power of music.
Today's episode of Why Music Matters is sponsored by Buffalo Spree magazine. From the start, Buffalo Spree has been a champion of Western New York's arts community, with every issue showcasing the best of Western New York. What's on stage, on view, in the clubs, and in the concert halls. Pick up the latest issue to get a closer look, or visit buffalospree.com. Welcome to Why Music Matters, a podcast where we examine the power and influence that music can wield in our lives. I'm your host, Jeff Miers. Today we've got a very, very special guest. Legendary progressive and hard rock musician, son of Western New York, and virtuoso bassist Billy Sheehan. We know Billy from his groundbreaking work with Talas, David Lee Roth's band, Niacin, Mr. Big, Sons of Apollo, and many more. Currently in the midst of a farewell tour with Mr. Big, which includes a homecoming gig at Electric City in Buffalo on June 6th, Billy chatted with me from the road. I started things off by asking Billy if he recalled that fateful night in December of 1980, when a then unknown band called U2 opened for Talas at Stage 1 in Buffalo, on what turned out to be the night that John Lennon was murdered in New York City. Billy and his Talas bandmates reacted by performing a set of the Beatles tunes they'd grown up revering as a tribute to Lennon.
So we just got up and did It's a Hard Day's Night and Help and 8 Days a Week and all the songs that we still know by heart, of course. And we could see in the crowd as it filtered through the information that we'd lost John Lennon. And it was a tough time. And I remember going home and watching one of the Beatles movies, the archival movie about their life and times. One of the famous ones, I forgot which one it was, but I cried like a baby at the end of that, losing John Lennon, because I knew we would never have the band that launched 10 million careers. Right. We would never have them again. And that was one of the most devastating losses for me in my life. We lose people as we go on. My mom, my dad, my big brother, all people, all gone. And it's always sad, but varying degrees, depending on their how you think and feel about it. But for me, to lose John Lennon and lose the Beatles was just absolutely devastating, because that was why I played.
Yeah,
the Beatles were why I played.
It's why it started, right? I mean,
yeah, no kidding.
Well, I've spoken to you in the past about some of your early bass influences. And, you mentioned people like Jack Bruce and Tim Boger and Chris Squire, but all of your projects have been notable for the abundance of vocal harmonies, and that's certainly the case with Mr. Big. I mean,
yeah.
I'm wondering, where did that come from? What started you on that? Was it the Beatles?
Absolutely. Singing and playing. The Road, Joe Hesse's band, they were a total vocal band. 2 lead singers out front, and the drummer was a lead singer also, and they just had tons of harmony. So most of the bands that I listened to, especially early 70s, Three Dog Night, Grand Funk Railroad, it's about the vocals always. And even now people say, hey, I know this great guitar player, he's amazing. He's oh, really? I got to hear him. Yeah. Does he sing? No. I'm good.
I know.
Because to be in a band and take up a hotel room and a bunk on a bus and you don't sing, it's kind of wasted space in my humble opinion. Sorry, but that's just how I've always looked at it. And we always, every band I've been in, most everybody sings all the time, And the same with us here in Mr. Big. Our guitarist Paul is very much the same way.
Yeah.
It's all about vocals. He's been spending his warm-up time with slide guitar, learning the vocal of millions of hit records and playing the vocal melody on guitar and the interesting little intricacies that you have to be able to do in order to make it sound convincing. So he's made a whole science of that on this whole tour. It's quite amazing. But yeah, singing is where it's at. I never necessarily looked at myself as a lead singer. I can croak out a lead vocal.
You sing super in tune though, and very powerfully.
Well, good. I got you fooled, Jeff. But still, I still love to sing. I always sang the Bowie stuff because I had a kind of a Bowie-esque thing, and I loved his voice.
Oh, yeah.
My vibrato came from the Vanilla Fudge, another all-singing band. Everybody sang all the time. And I did the Judas Priest stuff too because I had a high, hard falsetto that I could hit the Rob Halford high notes back in the day.
That's no joke.
It's since gone. I'm hoping to recover it someday. But singing is where it's at. People on American Idol and The Voice and all that, I don't see a lot of bass players up there.
It's true.
There's a lot of vocalists.
That's a fair point. But especially in what you might call heavier rock, I don't know, I hate all these genre descriptions, but aside from somebody like King's X, where the 3 and 4-part vocal harmonies is such a huge part, Mr. Big really blew me away with that from the beginning, and it's something that you really retained.
Yeah, we do the opening guitar line for Green's in the 60s Mine. There's always a roar from the crowd.
It's one of my favorites.
Oh, me too. And it's really, and Paul got heavily into the Beach Boys and some of their chord changes and some of their harmony voicings, and it began to live in some of his songs too. I'm very glad that he got influences like that. And also, he's a huge Beatles fan, and we all are. Eric has a more soul R&B background, which is
Paul Rogers,
great.
I always think of.
Oh yeah, it's a great thing to put into a mix. So we got the 3-part harmony behind him singing soulful voice, and it was just a combination that I'm thankfully worked really well.
Thank God. There seems to be a thing with Buffalo and bass players, like, the late, great Jerry Livingston with Rick James, obviously Robbie Takek with the Goos, Rashawn O'Dell with Najee. And now there's like a younger generation of players like Zuri Appleby is out there with Lizzo, and actually my son who's out there touring with SZA. And you were an inspiration to these players, and I'm wondering how important is mentorship to you, and did you have mentors yourself when you were coming up in Buffalo? You mentioned that a little bit.
Yeah, Joe Heskey was a big help to me initially, really helped launch me as a player. And I was lucky to play with all great players, guitarists and drummers, all through the years. I was surrounded by real talent, and it was always inspirational to me. So for my situation now, I do... when I'm in Nashville, I do master classes one-on-one, and it's interesting to see as when you're trying to help another player or discover something about another player that you can maybe give them some advice on. It actually helps you as well. I mean, by resolving someone else's difficulties on the instrument, it helps you to understand how to resolve your own.
Yeah.
And it's always been a two-way street to help another musician. The rewards do come to the person that's doing the mentorship, if you will. And I enjoy that immensely. I do clinics all over the world, and it's always enlightening. I always learn something, sometimes from the simplest beginner players. Some guy's doing one weird, odd thing with his hand. And what's that you're doing there? Oh, I see. That makes perfect sense. I may just adapt that into my own playing.
How cool.
Out of the mouths of babes, sometimes off time comes gems, as the saying.
Yes.
But it's good for the teacher, if you will. I don't consider myself a teacher, but it's good for those doing the mentorship to understand more. And they are. My playing is better by helping others. I remember I did a clinic in Japan. We had about 3,000 people there in an arena, and they brought 10 players up on stage, and I worked with each one in front of the whole crowd so they could see how it went. And one guy learned my solo off the Sink Your Teeth into that record, the NV 43345.
Yeah, love it.
And he had it exactly right, but it was all different fingering. It wasn't how I played it at all. And I remember just telling him through a translator, what incredible that you were able to do that, because he had no visible evidence of how I was doing it. He had to, and that's how we learned back in the day before video and the internet. You'd hear a record and you had to figure out what in the world was going on, and you could get the notes, and maybe you learned it in a completely different fashion than the original artist. And it was interesting for me to see someone else do that to my shtick, and he nailed it too. It was really, really incredible. So I learned that there's a couple different ways to do the same thing in almost everything you do on an instrument, and they all have their little nuance and artistic flair to them that makes them unique. Quite an amazing lesson for me.
That's really cool. And I mean, you've always struck me as a very humble and down to earth guy, but I mean, is it weird to know that that you are to some people what your heroes were to you? You know what I mean? I mean, is it hard to get your head around that? Not really. But I think it was just kind of a natural occurrence. It wasn't anything I put in motion. I mean, when people heard what I did, thankfully they enjoyed it and they wanted to emulate it, and they needed to learn how to do so. And that's exactly what I did. I heard Tim Bogart and Paul Samuel Smith and the Yardbirds and Jack Bruce and Ant Whistle, and the list goes on and on and on. And I learned from all those guys, and meeting them, and most of them I had the opportunity to meet. I became friends with Tim Bogart and John Entwistle, Chris Squire, a bunch of guys like that, Lemmy, and just great, wonderful people. And I looked up to all of them, and I don't necessarily think about it, but when a player comes up to me, a younger player, and talks to me, it may be to him similar to what my experience was hanging out with those guys, and so I always try to make it as enjoyable of a moment as possible, and listen to what they have to say, and really validate them for pushing through and learning what they learned from another player. As I still do that. I still listen to players, or I see somebody scrolling on Instagram or whatever, and I want to learn. I want to do that. I want to learn how the heck did he do that, and figure it out. So it's an interesting kind of mood of making an adventure, Columbus sailing out into the unknown waters. You dive into the deep end there and try to learn something from somebody else, and when you get it, you're better off for it. And when you get a chance to meet those people, I always gave them unlimited amount of praise and credit to all the people that I took from. And it was a lot of people, because I took a lot. I learned a lot, not only from bass players, guitar players, but drummers and keyboard. We're on an Oscar Peterson kick here lately. Oh my God, is there anyone better?
Oh my God, it's unreal.
It is mind-blowing.
Just listening to his note choices and how he gets them, unreal. So I said, okay, I can't play that on bass, but I can adapt something from it that will give me a broader spectrum of choices to make in the notes I play. And so when younger players come up to me like that, I really try to give as much encouragement as possible, because they're really the future. And there's some amazing players coming up through the ranks. It's fantastic to see.
It really is cool to see. And you know, your generosity of spirit and with your time is definitely appreciated and noted, man. It matters.
Oh, I'm glad. And I really do enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. When I'm doing my master classes in Nashville, because of the pandemic, I couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
So a local music store gave me a room, and people would come in. People came from all over, too, flying in from around the world, and sit down for somebody for about an hour or so. And I keep track. I tell them to, let me know how your progress is going on, social media, write to me. And quite amazingly, a lot of them really, I got to them and moved the needle a little bit, and they're very happy about it. And I think I'm even more happy to see that some advice I gave somebody actually took root and blossomed. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Today's episode of Why Music Matters is sponsored by Buffalo Spree magazine. For the past 60 years, Buffalo Spree has been Western New York's guide to living, dining, and entertainment. Every issue helps readers take advantage of the best of Western New York. Whether it's celebrating the exciting changes in our community, introducing you to people you should know, or giving you a taste of what's new on the food and dining scene, Spree has got you covered. Since the beginning, Spree has been a champion of Western New York's arts community, keeping you up to date on what's on stage, on view, and in the clubs and concert halls. Pick up the latest issue to get a closer look, or visit buffalospree.com. If you subscribe with the code JEFFSENTME, you'll get a year of Spree and a free digital edition for just $10. Look for Buffalo Spree's annual Best of Western New York issue, out on stands in late June. You've called Mr. Big the greatest achievement of your musical life, which is really saying something, considering all of it, from Talas to Winery Dogs, Niacin, which was for me, a personal favorite, because hearing you play with Dennis Chambers was kind of game-changing. I can imagine it was for you, too.
Oh, it sure was.
My God.
He is the greatest. I love him.
And the Sons of Apollo, Roth Band, whatever. But, I mean, wow, what a resume. But what about Mr. Big makes it the most fulfilling for you?
Well, I had an idea. I was out of Dave's band, and I said, well, I'm going to put my own band together. And I picked the guys. I found them and picked them, got them together. We got lucky that we got a connection to Herbie Herbert as a manager, one of the legendary. Wouldn't have done it without him, that's for sure. Yeah. And it wouldn't have done it without another 100 people that contributed as well through in the biz and such. But we set out and we did it. We got a platinum record. We played all over the world. We had a #1 hit. We had 3 or 4 other hits, and mission accomplished. It was, the real payoff is evident now, especially on this tour. People are flying in from all over the world to see these shows, and we got people on the West Coast from Korea, from Thailand, from China, from Australia. People flew in from Europe, from Germany, from France, from England to see the shows. And for me, we made a band, we had some success, and that's cool, but we touched a lot of people all over the place.
That's what I mean. It's international,
Oh, it's amazing. I'd be in an airport in Peru, changing planes, and, hey, are you Billy Sheehan? Yeah, I go, hey, Mr. Big. Yeah. Incredible. So it's really, what a gift that has been to all of us in this band, just to have people know that we reach people. And some of the emails I get from people are amazing, that they, contracted some horrible disease, or they are going through a divorce, or considering suicide. And they were listening to the music, and it helped them get through it. And now they're through the other side, and the sun is shining again. It bring tears to your eyes. It's amazing. And that's the power of music. I know it has that power on me. I'm sure it has it on you. I mean,
God, yeah.
what music is in our lives. For me, there's some music I won't listen to in front of other people because it's going to bring tears to my eyes. It's just so important to me. And that we might be that in some molecular small way comparatively to people around the world. Oh, man. Unbelievable. Amazing.
What a gift. And it also sounds like, I mean, you lost a brother, but you remaining guys, like there's still a brotherhood there. It sounds like you're really still enjoying each other's company and musicianship as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, being in a band, that's why, a couple of times I might have been able to go off and do some solo thing. Who knows? Maybe I will someday. I don't know. But nevertheless, being in a band is a thing, and a lot of younger players I've seen YouTubing and Instagramming, and they're playing their asses off, and they're amazing, but they're not in a band. And my 3 pieces of advice, pardon me, that I always give when I'm doing my clinics or seminars, I go, number 1, get in a band.
Yeah.
Number 2, get in a band with songs. Number 3, get in a band with songs that you sing. Run the numbers of everybody that did that and the amount of success that can be attributed to them. Paul McCartney, the richest musician in the world, was in a band with songs that you sing. And it's such an essential thing to be in the band in the first place. And you got other guys to hold up the other parts of the song and make it happen and rely on them to do, to play, and that ensemble playing. Soloing, yeah, I get known for doing a bass solo in a set.
That's great.
Take it or leave it, love it or hate it. But it's songs and playing ensemble that really that's the most essential thing. And as a bass player, I'm always on the drummer. It's all about the drums for me. I'm watching that, and I'm connecting him to the rest of the melodic instruments and vocals. And so that in between guy that you are as a bass player, super important. But you can't really learn that unless you're in a band and play and lock into that drummer and give a root note to the guitar player so he's sounding like he's supposed to sound. And so the band brotherhood, it's a good point that you brought that up, because I think it really is essential. And you learn about life. And bands fight, and you'll break up and get back together and break up again and get back together again. And brothers and sisters fight, husbands and wives fight, everybody fights.
Yep.
But, get back to it and learn how to recover and learn how to get back to square one and deal with people and overlook their shortcomings and add to their assets and their abilities, and the life lesson is incredible. To be in a band and to have it be about music is the giant bonus, of course.
It's huge. Does losing somebody maybe change your perspective and make you maybe more tolerant or see bigger picture in terms of long-term relationship? Absolutely. We all, as we go through life, life changes you and you change life, So you adapt to what you have to, and then you change what you need to change what's around you. It's not always at effect. There is cause and effect, and both of them are simultaneous sometimes. So when life hits you hard, you learn how to not necessarily hit back, but bounce back. And learn civility and understanding and forgiveness, and all those are things you learn in a band. And going up on stage every night, you could tear your chest open and show your heart to the whole audience. It's an emotional thing, and you're with 3 or 4 other people that are doing the same with you. It's quite an event. Wow. As you mentioned, as bassist, I mean, the drummer you're working with is everything, because you're the team, shoveling coal in the engine room, right? And
yeah.
I'm wondering if you could talk about DiVirgilio, a little bit.
Yeah,
and how that, it has to be different, right? Every drummer is different. Changes
they are
the way
all
you
different.
Play.
Yeah, some great drummers with a great bass player, sometimes it doesn't work, oddly. it's not a universal thing. There's got to be kind of a click. It's
Right.
like a guy and a girl meet each other. On paper, it looks good, but they just didn't really hit it off,
Totally
So
happens. Yeah.
I've been really lucky to play with great drummers throughout the years. All the Talas years. Paul Vargo's a great drummer. Mark
Right.
Miller, amazing. Ron Rocco, great player as well. Greg Bissonette and David Lee Roth. Pat Torpey is just great. And now Nick is Dennis Chambers, who we mentioned earlier, and several others that I'm remiss for not listing, but nevertheless are important to me. Nick is quite a phenomenon. He's a brilliant singer. He plays several other instruments, melodic instruments as well.
That's huge.
But his drumming is his main specialty, and he's got. Pat Torpey had a lot of really incredible nuanced things that other drummers would always come to me and say, "Yeah, I'm trying to learn Pat's thing here, and it's impossible because he's doing this thing with a hi-hat while this other stuff is going on."
And singing.
And Pat was like that. He would do layers of complexities and make it all sound simple in the end. And Nick figured that out and does a lot of that himself. So he's kind of in that a parallel to what Pat Torpey did. So it really worked out great, and we needed his voice. We had another drummer, Matt Starr, who was a great drummer, but he just didn't have the vocal range. He was a good singer, but didn't have the range. And we need the 3-part harmony. Myself usually low or high, Paul in the middle area, and then Pat always a strong high voice as well. So Nick has exactly that. He's got a really strong, wide range. Pitch is right on. I've got my in-ear monitors hearing the 3-part harmony every night, and he nails it. It's so great. And he's a wonderful guy. He's a piece of cake to work with. So great, so easy. Hey, Nick, we're going to change it. Sure, okay, no problem. It's just a wonderful guy. And again, we get back to what we were talking about bands, learning how to deal with people and be cooperative and, give and take. It's an essential thing in a band. And he's just a master at it. He really has been an incredible asset to us.
That's awesome. And you need, somebody who can hang, that you can ride the bus with and feel like, that's a huge part of it.
We open up a bottle of red, or I go down to the hotel restaurant and he's there. We hang out and have a burger together and talk music. And we got a lot of common ground. And he played with Tears for Fears and did some Genesis shows. And he's got an incredible resume himself. And he's just a wonderful guy. We're just blessed to have him.
Yeah, that is a blessing. Well, I can't wait to see this live. But, you chose Lean Into It as the core of this kind of, set on the final tour, and the obvious fact that it's a platinum selling album. It was a huge hit all around the world. But, is that what made you choose it, or did you feel like it distills what Mr. Big is in the most effective way?
Yeah, well, I think it does kind of, it was our most widely accepted record. So I think people, when they think of Mr. Big, usually it's a song or songs on that album. I love the first record as well.
Me too.
We open up the show with "Addicted to That Rush."
Excellent. That was an older. That was already your song a while before Mr. Big, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had the skeleton of it. Yeah. I had the title written down. I would do a thing where I would just write down song titles. No song, no chorus, no nothing. It's just like, that sounds like a song. And sometimes go into a bookstore and look at all the titles of the books and pick from those and which one would make a song, because the title is the thing that kind of draws you in.
Yeah.
And so "Addicted to That Rush" was a title of mine for years. And then when Mr. Big got together, it grew from there. And so that was our first song off our first record. So we opened up the show with that. Then do a couple other songs to warm up, and then we hit the Lean Into It album, do it front to back. And Lean Into It ends with "To Be With You," which puts us in a great spot of the set. And then we do a few other things, and then all hell breaks loose, and we wrap it up. So it's a pretty good show. It's a pretty cool show. And doing the Lean Into It in its entirety, our voices aren't what they were in 1988, so we had to change a couple keys. Yeah. Not much, but
that's
a little bit of
at all,
Well, we didn't want to fake it. We didn't want to fake it. And I know a lot of bands that run with tracks, and I don't even know how to do it. Or it would seem precarious to me, because if that track went off and you weren't playing or singing, everybody would know you were faking it.
And it's a bad
some
look.
Artists too.
It's a bad look.
It's a bad look. So we dropped a couple keys down to make it singable, and it's actually heavier and really lucky this time. It was one of my favorite songs, and that was in the stratosphere to sing. It was way up there. So we pulled that down a little bit, and it's warm, but it's the essential elements of that song, all the harmonies and in the choruses and all. But it's really a joy to play that record all the way through, and it's been going over very, very well with people. So we're pleased with that.
Amazing. Well, this may be the last tour, but there's a new album coming out in July, and based on the strength of the single, it sure sounds like there's a lot of gas left in the tank.
Yeah, and I'm glad. The whole point of this thing is to end on a high point. Yeah. We didn't want to crawl across the finish line. We wanted to sprint over the finish line and say, here we are. So people's last memory of us isn't us chugging through, trying to stand upright and get through these songs one last time. We're all in good physical shape, thank God, and up to speed to perform this stuff as it should be. But time marches on, as you know, and as we get older, it gets a little more difficult. So I think that was the whole point of this, is to end on a high point, a big finish. It's come to be, we look back at it now, we do believe it was the right decision. To do. We probably could, and the new record is just kind of a way of saying goodbye. Remember a record by Cream? Yeah, I think they called it Goodbye, and it was the three of them on the cover. I wanted to do something like that with our cover, but we getting a cover for a record is sometimes the most difficult part of making an album. We finally,
I like the two hands.
It works. There's 10 fingers as our 10th record, so it all fits together. But so we did a conscious decision to make this our final run and do it right. And so far, it's been working out really well.
That's awesome, man. Well, you've done so much and you've achieved so much. I'm just wondering what keeps you going, as a player and as a collaborator. Where's the inspiration,
I don't know where it comes from, but I know that it's still, I'd be driving my car and get excited about an idea I have on bass, and like, I can't wait to get home and try this. And at 71, I still have, I don't know why or how, but still it's like 16 years old. And I just got the bass from a Kubera Music 910 Fillmore at Sycamore.
Amazing.
And I'm still excited about it. It's and that's my thing I'm most thankful for. I just still love to play, and I love music, and I discover some cool new thing, and it's exciting, and I can sit down for hours and hours and play and go from just exercising things I need to be stronger on and coming up with new things and seeing some player and getting inspired and trying to do what he's doing. And it's I'm so thankful that that's built into me. I don't know why or how or where it comes from, but for some reason I got some little genetic quirk in me that makes me excited like I was when I was 16. It's funny.
I love it, man. It just never ends, right? You don't retire from music. I just don't think you can.
I remember I heard a story. I think it was Pablo Casals, the famous cellist, in his 90s. He was practicing, and somebody said, well, you're 90 years old and the greatest in the world. Why are you still practicing? And he said, I'm starting to see some improvement. Similarly, I just got a whole new way of approaching what I do with my right hand that smooths everything out way more and gets me over all these trouble spots I used to have. And it just 2 days ago, I just came up with a way of figuring out how to get over that. And after playing for 55 years, I finally figured that one out.
I love it. I feel like I just started getting good around 50. So,
Yeah, isn't that funny? It's true.
never ends.
It's true.
Well,
It
man,
never ends. And thankfully, it never ends.
yes.
That's so
oh
great.
my God, it's the greatest gift. And thank you for sharing that gift. And I can't wait to see this show in Buffalo in a couple of weeks, man.
Oh, me too. I can't wait to play for all of my friends and family and people that'll be there and people that were there through the years from the Barrelhead and He and She's and Stage One and After Dark, Keystone 90s, all the I could pretty much list all the clubs still from memory.
I'm impressed by that.
I spent so much time in them. It's so great. But what a Buffalo really. I'm so glad I was born in that city and went through what I went through there, because life would be different for me now, and I don't think it would be nearly as satisfying as it has been.
That's awesome.
I'm sure.
We love you here, man, and we can't wait to see you home, and we're grateful for the way you represented us out there in the world, man.
Beautiful. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for keeping what you keep alive, too, man. It's very, very important.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you. And I'll see you in a couple weeks. Travel safe till then.
You got it, man. Thanks for your time, and you take care.
You too, brother. Take care, man.
All right.
Bye.
See you, Jeff. Bye-bye.